Well, aloha, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PWT Talks NXT. And Bayley talks until CW doesn't let her anymore. I'm Kelly Wells, and I'm your host. You can find me on Blue Sky at Other Kelly Wells. I don't know if this happened to everyone, but Bayley was in the middle of the main point of whatever this scene was, and then she wasn't. And
Oh,
hearing about cabinet picks.
so wait a minute. She was just in the middle of talking and it cut.
Yes.
So, okay. I ended up watching this on Netflix tonight because I don't feel like paying for YouTube TV anymore, and I already have a VPN. And it did continue all the way through the end. So Bayley, she said what she said, and then she got punched in the face by
Roxy.
Roxanne Perez, and then they cut. So there was like another 10 seconds of the finish.
Yeah, they just stopped. Bayley was in the middle of something. It was getting chippy, but there you go. Yeah, I knew where it was headed, but I didn't know how much they would come to blows and how much would happen. This sounds like it will be a send-off match for Roxy. I'm not that this has to be the way it is, but I kind of like when they go out on their back after something like this, and I think Roxy will be doing so. But yeah, this it's weird because I didn't have any specific things lined up to say about it because I didn't get to see the end of the scene. But Bayley, what a reaction. DIY got a pretty good reaction, but they are playing heels, so there's that, and that may have tempered it some. Bayley got a massive response. I did not try to think of who the boots were and who that was that had shown up at the venue, but yeah, it was Bayley. So I guess from the one who saw the whole scene, Nate, tell us who you are and what you thought of the main event talk segment.
Last I checked, I think I'm still Nate Lindberg. Check the things I do at natelindberg.com. So no, I mean Bayley, she got a massive reaction, like you said, when we saw somebody get out of the car or truck or whatever vehicle it was. We saw the boots walking along. I had absolutely no idea because like the first thing I thought was, oh, is The Rock back? But then I'm like, okay, those are clearly women's boots, so that's not it. And I had no idea who it could have been. I figured whoever it was going to be was going to show up in the next couple minutes anyway. Very surprised, but also happy to see Bayley. I wondered if it might have been Becky Lynch because Roxanne Perez did say something about the four horsewomen right before Bayley came out. So when that happened, and then like Bayley's music hit, but like the graphics hadn't come up yet. All I heard was the crowd just going, "Oh!" I went, "Oh, maybe it is Becky," because of how big the reaction was. Becky's been off TV for a while, blah blah blah. I figured maybe that was it, but Bayley, like amazing reception for her. I think this works, and you know, we've been asking what's next for Roxanne Perez once she loses the NXT title. And I think we just found out. We've been wondering if it meant, a call up to the main roster or something like that. But I think instead they're, keep her down in NXT for the time being. I think a call up's imminent. She's ready by far whenever the main roster is ready for her. But in the meantime, have her go into an angle with the main roster talent. We've got this whole transfer window thing that's happening or whatever. So why not bring Bayley down here, have her feud with Roxanne Perez, get some more eyeballs on NXT, especially now that NXT is on Netflix for every place outside of the United States, or unless you have a VPN. And it's going to get more eyeballs on the product in general, just being on Netflix and all of that. But now you can take a big star like Bayley. And okay, who's this Roxanne Perez? I don't know what NXT is. I know what Bayley is, but what's Roxanne's good. Introduce Roxanne to a whole new audience, or other way around. Introduce the audience to Roxanne Perez. And yeah, I think this is going to be a great feud. It's the whole, new blood versus the old blood, tried and true trope, if you will. And I think this, especially given who's involved, I think this could be really good.
Four Eyes Malone in the chat says giving Roxanne and Trick some nice transition storylines instead of just throwing them in the deep end is good. Yes, indeed. I think both of them, and we're wrong a lot when we say stuff like this, but I think both of them are at the end of their time in NXT. I think it would be too easy for them to get lost in the shuffle. I don't know that I want to see Trick as an underneath guy. I think I mean, he'll have to be on the main roster, but I don't think I want to see that happen for an extended amount of time here on NXT, and I don't think it would do him any good. So maybe give him something to do for a minute. But yeah, he was not exactly all over this show. They just had a social media post that said something about hitting his next move. And Creighton Rabs in the chat says, so what happened at the end of NXT CW in Dallas cut off the end segment in the middle of Bayley's promo when Bayley referenced WrestleMania. First of all, I will see you in Dallas tomorrow. I am flying out tomorrow morning, but yes,
specifically going to seek him out, apparently.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It cut out everywhere, and Nate watched it via the network.
The Netflix.
Like watched an overseas feed, the Netflix feed, and that had the whole thing. And it apparently did not go very long after this.
Yeah,
after what we saw.
There's actually a few things that I'd like to bring up real quick between watching on Netflix and on the CW. So like I said, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this. I'm going to say this. It's not like people don't know about this and they don't advertise VPNs for this anyway. But if you pay for things like Peacock and YouTube TV and other things that you don't use other than to watch WWE, just get a VPN and you can connect to like Canada, which is what I did tonight. And your network thinks you're in Canada. You just connect to Netflix and boom, there's all of the wrestling. So there was a few different times tonight that I noticed the announcers weren't talking when I thought they should be talking. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, maybe we're getting some extra content on Netflix because it's new and whatever. Then on CW. Then I realized, dawned on me that no, I'm just not hearing the commentators. I think they had like a mute button or something, because you know how like they'll show the CW, like the football. I think it was football like teams, and they kind of talk over it, and anything that they talk about for the CW network, the announcers are muted. And I think somebody had like a mute button and forgot to unmute the commentary team when they actually went back live after they did those CW spots. And the commentary was also louder than on CW. I switched over to YouTube TV now that I know I can cancel it, but I still have like a few weeks left of it. I switched over to there, and commentary was a lot quieter on CW. So it's almost like there's a completely different audio feed, which I thought was kind of cool. This might not be interesting for anybody but me, but I do some production stuff. So this was, I just thought this was kind of interesting. But we also are not getting on Netflix. We also don't get split screen. I don't know if you guys got, I'm assuming that was happening on CW tonight, right? Split screen.
Yeah, they just did it once. Vic thought they did it a second time. He said OTM dominating all through he still says picture in picture, even though that's not what it is. Break. And I was like, they didn't go to split screen break. They literally just went to commercial. So
yeah,
left hand not talking to the right.
Apparently so. But yeah, there was no split screen. There were also no commercials other than WWE commercials, like the one for Saturday Night Main Event. Instead, we got this repetitive on hold music and just a whole bunch of different images or not images, but slow motion videos of wrestlers like posing at Deadline or things like that for 3.5 minutes or so. So it was which I kind of liked because I hate watching ads. So yeah, just a couple little differences there tonight, but yeah, I just thought I'd at least bring them up for anybody who might be interested. But also the biggest difference is we now know that when the show ends on CW, it may not end on Netflix because they clearly cut out in the middle of a big angle tonight.
Yes, indeed. Women all over this show. There were 5 matches. 3 of them were women's matches, and one of the 2 men's matches only went under a minute long. So why not go to let's say the opener, Stephanie Vaquero versus Shotzi. This was #1 contender match. Shotzi wins this one in 11:03. She had to because they got to figure out how to keep Stephanie Vaquero from winning that championship too early, and they don't want her to have that match and fail. So they had to figure out a way to make it Shotzi and extend that Fallon Henley championship. So they had first JC Jane interfere, but then Fallon, the only member of Fatal Influence who is not totally hapless most of the time, brain her with the belt, that her being Vaquer, and Shotzi got the roll up and was none too happy when she realized how she had won. But she did indeed win, and that match will be in 2 weeks. That was your opener. My big takeaway is Shotzi is so much better than she was when she was getting her big NXT push, and I felt was not yet quite worthy of it. I know you've been a Shotzi backer for a long time, but I really, really think that she's coming to her own now, and I hope the damage is not done. And Stephanie's just awesome. The opener, Nate.
Yeah, no. As far as Shotzi goes, like I've loved the gimmick since day one, but I also really kind of gravitate towards like punk like gimmicks and things like that. Like everything that Shotzi is, with maybe the exception of that kind of stupid like wolf call thing she does, I dig it big time. Even like the nods to Tank Girl and stuff like that. It's just sweet, but you're right. I mean, she, in her initial NXT run, she had a little bit of work to do. She wasn't perfect, but now that she's actually had those reps on the main roster, she's worked with all the women that she has on the main roster. Coming back to NXT, it's night and day. You know, not that we haven't obviously seen her wrestle on the main roster, but I guess maybe just kind of when I'm watching the main roster, unless I'm on Wade's show or something, I'm not really watching through an analyst's eye. I'm just kind of watching it to enjoy it. So there's that. But no, I thought this match was great. In terms of determining #1 contender, like I like the fact that it's Shotzi because personally, like I said, I'm a big fan of Shotzi, so it's kind of just cool to see her in that spot. But I also kind of wonder what the deal is for Stephanie here. Now, where she lost, obviously, kind of due to interference from Fallon Henley. I'm pretty sure they're going to wind up somehow inserting her into this match and might end up being a triple threat. Maybe somebody else gets involved and it turns into a fatal 4-way, something like that. But I think before this match actually happens between Fallon Henley and Shotzi, we're going to wind up seeing Stephanie entered into it one way or another.
Okay. Four Eyes Malone had asked earlier, 2 questions I have. Cory Graves definitely done, and do you guys like the single camera use of picking up 3 storylines in one swoop backstage? I really like multiple scenes happening backstage. I'm a big fan of that. Sorry, I got no control over this cough ever since I got flu A. I really like the multi-scene, but I don't love it when I'm recapping because, oh man, it requires me to be very, very quick when typing those things as they're happening. The Graves thing doesn't sound good.
No, it does not.
Yeah, everything I read is pretty negative. He had re-upped in January 2024 for at least a few years. I'm very, very surprised that this is coming to pass.
I do have a theory.
Go ahead.
He's mentioned, and this isn't my theory. This is something actually Jobin brought up to me. He had we were kind of talking about it. I think it makes sense. Corey's talked about how he may want to return to the ring after like concussions and things like that. And this is pure speculation. I haven't heard anything. I'm just talking. But potentially wonder if this might be a surprise entrant in the Rumble. And this is all a work.
That would be lovely. It would be very old school of them to swerve us in this way, with all these little pieces of this storyline, and then to have him call New Year's Evil is odd. But if he really is just not, if the thing about him not being famous enough to have his own job when you got McAfee in there, I mean, I'm sorry, but
yeah,
I'm not here to talk about McAfee, but I mean, come on. That's all. So, he also asked, that being for Eyes Malone, is Kalani turning heel? I don't think so. I thought maybe she was, and that could still be if they really want to get frustrated here, and have her go that far. But I think this is about needing to get more edge, basically because she's in a position where she has to lose a couple matches. She lost her championship, and now she's given back a little bit before her next push. So I think that they are just looking at different aspects of her personality before she ends up getting moved up. I don't know that she's going to be ever super dynamite on the mic, but she's gotten a lot better than she was at the beginning when she was basically just going out there and she was just create a wrestler. But I think she's gotten quite a bit better since then, and the edge is working. So I think they're just trying to tap into different facets of her personality before they move her up. But they've turned people that I thought they would never turn before. And it's worked to levels I never would have guessed before. Go ahead, Nate.
I'm on the fence. I'll be completely honest, because I think up until, I don't know, maybe last week, I was like, yeah, they're turning her heel, and then I'm like, maybe not, maybe they are. And I think I talked about this, with Jobin last week. Like exactly what you said is, they Kalani needs more than just I'm happy to be here, and I'm a gymnast, and she's obviously built on that more as time's gone on, but I think she still needs more than that. So they might just be doing what you said, and kind of giving her an edge, and kind of fleshing out the character a little bit more. But at the same time, some of the things she's doing, when I see it, it invokes I don't like that. Like it so I don't know. It almost feels like when I forget who it was she slapped in the face tonight. Who was it she slapped in the face?
Who made her slap
It
her?
was in yeah, I know it's in the
Cora,
recap.
Cora Jade.
It was Cora, yeah. Even though Cora like deserved it, it was the way she went about. I don't know, like that's just the instinct I got from it. So I'm really on the fence about this in terms of our heel turn for Kalani. I'm in favor of it, honestly. So I'm almost giving it like a 51 yes, she's gonna turn, and 49% no, she's not. But like that's how split I am on it.
Okay, let's go to your crossover match. The Meta Girls versus the Unholy Union. This is the #1 contenders match for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Very cool to see this match happening on NXT, because the tag teams, they can come from anywhere. So the Meta Girls, who are kind of like in that weird nebulous spot where they have one foot in the main roster, just kind of dipping a toe in the main roster. Unholy Union are fully there, but this match still one that can happen on NXT. This got a good amount of time, 12:54. Normally would be the longest match in the show, but it was not. And this particular one went the way of the Meta Girls, and all match long I marveled at how much cleaner and crisper the Meta Girls are since their beginnings. Now Lash has been getting there for quite a while. She's been on this brand for like 3 years. And she started out real rough. Had a lot of work to do, and the work did happen. And she really does wrestle like a strong heavyweight kind of chick. Jakara Jackson has had some real rough outings in there too. And you'd never know it looking at this match. Now, their opponents, Isla Dawn's a pretty good wrestler, and Alba Fire is a great wrestler. So, not that surprising they can have a good match with them, but I just marveled at how far that these Meta Girls have come. Anyway, they are the number one contenders and will get another shot at the tag team championships against Naomi and Bianca Belair. So, they did not promote where that match would happen and when. That I don't think will be an NXT match, although that'd be fun to cover if it was. But at any rate, that match will happen. So on your crossover match, Nate.
No, I don't have a whole heck of a lot more to say than you already kind of covered. I'm especially seeing Lash and Jakara up close when I was in Lowell. Like I said, obviously sitting front row, and I was sitting right behind their corner, so I got to see them up close and watch the match. And they are, not only are they super crisp in the ring now, but they've also got their banter with the crowd down. You could tell when you can obviously tell when it's a commercial break when you're at a TV taping, especially if you just kind of know when somebody gets thrown out of the ring or whatever. So whenever they went to commercial break, both of them are yammering it up with the crowd, and not everybody would do that. Luca Crucifino was another one that I was really surprised with his banter with the crowd. But yeah, they're definitely coming along, and I think that this shot at the WWE tag team titles for them is a major one for them. Like you said, they've got one foot in the door in NXT, one foot in the door in the main roster. Now all of a sudden they may have main roster belts around their around their waist, and considering who the champions are, that's a big match.
Four Eyes Malone in the chat says they definitely look more in sync. I don't want them doing that stack on top of each other move too much, though. Yeah, I agree. It's a very cutesy move, and it requires a lot of time to get into it, and it requires the opponents to kind of be dead fish for sort of a while for it to move, for it to actually work. So, yeah, they went to it twice tonight because the first time failed and the second time succeeded. And yes, given the amount of time that it takes to pull it off right, I don't want to see it much either. Wouldn't be surprised if it was retired entirely, because I like all the other stuff they're doing from a double team standpoint. So that can go if anything's got to go. Well, we're talking women. Let's finish strong. Kalani Jordan versus Cora Jade. This went 5-11. Kalani loses because of that edge, because she keeps going hard at Jade in the corner, and the ref keeps pulling her away because she's trying to keep her from getting disqualified. Cora, of course, uses her one chance to rake the eyes and go to her finisher, her double underhook DDT thing. 5 minutes and 11 seconds. She wins. Masha Slamovich watched this match from the front row, TNA Knockouts champion. And she just has so much to smile about, Nate. She was
right,
just happy to be there. Yeah, Jade over Jordan.
I will admit I do not know a thing about Slamovich. I don't know if I've ever heard the name until I saw it tonight on TV, so I can't really comment on her. But I'm assuming she won that title from Jordan Grace, and if that says anything, then she's got to be good. So we'll go with that. I'm going to look some of her stuff up this week and kind of catch up, because obviously the TNA NXT thing is still going strong. I was really wondering about that yesterday, actually. If we may wind up seeing like any TNA stars in the Royal Rumble, like the Hardy Boys or something like that. I don't know. Could be. But in terms of back to this match, not me fantasy booking the Royal Rumble, the way that Kalani lost this match. Like you said, she kind of like had to, take her mind out of the match for a little bit to try and like get that extra edge. Is another reason that I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards maybe she is turning heel. It's just, again, just that I don't really have a reason why, but it's just that one little extra thing that gets the character a little bit more angry and kind of fills up that meter until you cross a line and become a heel. Down here's a face, up here's a heel, and you cross it eventually. I don't know, maybe I'm not making sense, especially if you're listening to me on the podcast and can't actually see me on YouTube using my hands anyway. But no, again, like you said, they're trying to figure out something to do with Kalani right now. So, that could also be why she's losing in this manner. Just kind of to build up the character and things like that. Yeah, I think that's about all I get to say on that.
Steve Rupture in the chat says, was it just me or did Masha not get nearly the response as Jordan? I mean, yeah, but Masha was at ringside smiling at a match, and Jordan, her debut was being in the damn Royal Rumble. So apples and oranges. But yes, Grace is also more known than Slamovich. I think Nate just displayed that because he knew Grace when she showed up and did not know Slamovich. Slamovich is a name that I have known for a long time, and her face was familiar, but I don't think I've seen any of her matches. So there you go. I'm like half a step ahead, but TNA's not been something that I have watched a lot of. Brian, thank you for wishing me safe travels. Yes, I will be on a plane in 12 hours, and man, am I not ready for this particular trip.
Kelly hasn't packed yet again.
Yep, has not packed. Oh well, doesn't take me long. I'm a dude. Final match of the show was Axium and Nathan Fraser defending their tag team championship against OTM. This was the Iron Man match tonight at 13-13. Axium and Nathan Fraser, they can't be beaten. I got worried about Jada Parker because their graphic said with Jada Parker, but she wasn't there and they didn't bring her up at first. So I got really nervous.
That's not the first time that's happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It seems like anytime that graphic comes up, it has her name on it, even if she's not there.
Later on, they did mention her and her impact on these guys and how she's probably helped them because she's real edgy too. I really dug this match. Nima and Price really are figuring out big man, big brute wrestling, looking unbeatable, even when in the end they have to get beat. And they have to get beat a lot. They're kind of right now the Canes of the division, the unbeatable guys who always get beat. But I thought they really looked good in defeat here. And they gave Axium and Fraser something to make it look like they really overcame. So that was big. It seems that DIY might be next for the champs, and Axiom Fraser will not win that match, but it won't matter because it won't be for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Anyway, on that match, Nate.
I can't wait for that. DIY is like one of my favorite tag teams of all time. And so I'm very excited to see Axiom versus DIY. However, here tonight, this match with OTM and Nathan Fraser and Axiom, I am become such a big fan of Axiom, and it's such a departure from where I was at their inception, and even 6 months ago, 4 months ago. It dawned on me tonight that OTM, like, there's a possibility they could take it from them, and that was before Brooks Jensen and what's his name? Yoshi. I can't remember his name. I know you'll correct me in a second.
Yoshiki Inamura, I think.
Yes, that's it. Yes, Yoshiki Inamura. When the two of them attacked, was before that attack where I'm like, OTM might wind up beating him tonight. And I was almost, I don't want to say sad, because like sad is kind of a like that's a strong emotion. But I was a little like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. Like I just got into this tag team run. Um, I think calling them one of the best tag teams in NXT is 1000% earned. DIY has been called the best tag team in NXT for a while, on this show and otherwise. So why not? I think again, it goes back to the same thing we were talking about at the top of the show with Bayley and Roxanne. It's the old blood versus the new blood. Do it. It's just going to get eyeballs on the product. It's a reward for longtime fans like us to kind of see those old stars come back and kind of mingle with the new crew. With OTM, you were talking about them kind of getting into their big man styles and things like that. I wanted to call him Warbeard Hansen. Ivar. Ivar recently did an interview with Chris Van Vliet and mentioned on the show that he is now doing a big man class down at NXT at the Performance Center, and specifically mentioned working with OTM. So that right there, I think, is something that they're certainly improving on, because like you said, that they're still learning, and kind of still kind of getting that under their belt, but they've improved every time. Again, especially seeing them up close and personal in Lowell. It was cool. It's nice to see that progression for them, and I think that, I don't know, I think if they kind of they get that down, they get their it's funny because in the ring, I feel like if they've got a live mic, they're pretty good, but in their backstage segments, sometimes I feel like it's a little forced acting or something like that. I think if they just kind of get that down and whatnot, and they're going to wind up, being, I don't want to say like a major player, major tag team in the division or in the main roster tag division, but I think they'll definitely be a solid mid card tag team, if not more. I hope they prove me wrong, but yeah, big. I'm looking forward to big things out of OTM.
Kevin Kanani emails us. You can email us at pwtorchnxt@gmail.com. Salutations, gents. I hope this email finds you well. Well, I think it's safe to say that things are happening in NXT. Between sorting out challengers for the belts and keeping the mid-card alive, there's definitely a lot of activity. I'm definitely heartbroken that the rare Dante Chen appearance ended in a quick defeat, but perhaps he'll get another shot again soon. I'm still not sold on the Eddie Thorpe heel turn, but if it gives Oba a chance to Hulk smash him, then so be it. I'm slightly stunned that Stephanie Vaquer lost tonight to Shotsy of all people. What do you guys make of it? Is there a bigger meaning to this, or are they delaying Stephanie's ascent? It's that. No bigger meaning. Yeah. Thanks as always. Go VIP and listen to 8YB. Office hours are now over. The Professor, Kevin P. Katani, PhD. So yeah, that's it. It's delaying Stephanie. That is the thing. And she's losing to a main roster talent, which doesn't carry the same stigma as losing to somebody who's there, even though Shotsy is not somebody who has like some major push happening on the main roster. I'm very sold on the Eddie Thorpe heel turn. It is my favorite stuff he's ever done, and I've been watching him for a very, very long time because I was watching him wrestle as Carl Fredericks, which is his real name, in New Japan, and winning the Young Lion Cup, and then getting his initial push on New Japan Strong when it was still a weekly show, and seemingly getting ready for something in New Japan proper, but that never happened because he made the jump to WWE. So yeah, and all that said, even though I liked his initial push on New Japan Strong and where that was heading in a slightly more heelish direction, but in New Japan, it's not always really clear. And there's the guys will kind of shift face or heel depending on who they're feuding with. But this is my favorite stuff he's done. That rooftop full moon promo that he gave tonight was probably my favorite thing he's done. And just being like, he feels so good just because he was so bad. I love it. I really dug it. Anything else on Katani's email?
No, not really. You answered it for the whole Shotsy thing, and I'm 100% with you on Eddie Thorpe. Not that I wasn't behind him as a face, but he and I say this not knowing the stuff that he did in New Japan and things like that, but his run as Eddie Thorpe in NXT, I was behind him as a face, but like it wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't, and I don't think he was connecting with the majority of the audience. But it's kind of the same thing like with Ridge Holland. Same thing exactly. Well, not exactly, because I don't think he was connecting at all as a face as Ridge Holland in NXT or even on the main roster. But now that he's heel, we care about what Ridge Holland is doing. And I think it's going to be the same thing with Eddie Thorpe here. This is some of the best stuff that he's done in NXT, period. The heat that he had in the building in Lowell that night was insane. It was, he had Dominic heat. I couldn't hear him. It was the only time in the night that somebody was on the mic and I could not hear what they were saying. The only other time the only other time it was even close was Ethan Page, and the boos were pretty high, but nowhere near the heat that Eddie had. So I think he's on a good path.
Ryan Slorio in the chat says Eddie Thorpe has more personality as a heel. Yes, which is to say he has some, because as a face, he wasn't really showing much of any. I think that this is a guy who is just born to be a mean dude in there, even though I think he's one of the good dudes in real life. That's how it goes sometimes. Four Eyes Malone says, how many more wrestlers does Ethan abuse? When will Evans get revenge? I think he's probably abused just about his last lower card guy. As for when Evans will get revenge, February 15th, Saturday, February 15th at Vengeance Day. That is when he will get his revenge. I don't know, Nate. I guess they could string it out longer, but I think that's when.
I mean, it's called Vengeance Day.
Yep. They can tie that one in. So Evans on the show again. That was cool. Spitting out another blood capsule. Doing the jaw thing again. So yeah, 57-second match. I feel like we've more or less covered that. Obafemi, he was on this show a few times. He opened it. Just looking great in that shirt, Nate. God, the man is cool. He was out there talking about how he's the ruler. This is his place, and he can do what he wants to do now. Tony D showed up and said, when it comes to my championship, it's Don 2, Oba 1. And so he wanted his rematch. Of course, Ridge Holland shows up. Santa Claus showed up without his costume this time. And he and Tony D brawled. And this is when Eddie Thorpe made his move. Oba later on goes to Ava, makes his own match. Mr. Stone says, you're being played like a fiddle. And Oba was none too pleased. So it was just, this is the perfect role for Mr. Stone. Just going out there and like putting himself in a position where you kind of want to see him get handed his ass. And said ass was handed to him. Femi later on had his little scene with Lennox, Dion Lennox, who said, at some point, I'm going to challenge you someday. And Femi just rolled his eyes and walked away. Then we got that Rizzo and Spears scene with Izzy Dame talking down Sean Spears. She'll end up with him, but yes, Rizzo will not. And then Carmen and Ashante, they made it official. They kissed, Nate. So love it be in the air. So Obafemi and other backstage segments.
Oh, there were a lot of segments there. I'm not going to remember them all, but Obafemi is the coolest dude on the roster. Like you said, with the shirt, it was like one of the Rock's $5,000 shirts or something like that. He's unquestionably like championship material, and we've known that since the second he debuted. But like his trajectory since that debut has been absolutely insane. He spent more time as a champion than he hasn't. And he's been on the roster for quite some time now. So it's like big things for Obafemi in the future. He knows the character inside and out. Not everybody does, like that, just kind of that far into play or that He's only been Obafemi for like a year and a half. So, that's been like not everybody understands their character to the level that he does in that amount of time. That's what I was trying to say. The inclusion of Tony D'Angelo, I think this is like I kind of like it, and I'm wondering if they're going to go to maybe like a first championship thing, or I don't know. We'll see, obviously, where that goes. The last time they did that was, and Keith Lee wound up winning both titles. Who was that? Was that Adam Cole that he wrestled when Keith Lee won both titles during the pandemic?
Oh boy,
I don't remember. I feel like somebody in the chat will I don't know, but maybe not. But anyway, I think that was the one and only time they did one of those matches, and we wound up with a double champion. I'm like, yes, do it. And okay, it was. Thank you, Ryan, in the chat, and Steve in the chat.
I was trying to make it Roddy, but that was when they did the other unification.
Yeah.
The
with the cruiserweight title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was cool. And but yeah, so they could do something like that again, and then have Obafemi with both titles over his shoulder. I'm all for it. I don't know if there's a chance of that happening, but if there is, sign me up, and I'll fly to wherever it is, and I'll sit there and watch it. I'm not really going to do that. I'll probably just sit right here and watch it, but still, you get my drift.
All right. Sarah Schreiber talked to DIY. They said no shenanigans, Nate. They said it twice, so you knew they meant it.
They meant business.
And then there weren't any shenanigans.
They just
went out there and they watched a match. So
they are men of their words.
And yeah, apparently. Ethan Page and Dante Chen kind of covered that. Lexus and Ava rematch. Ren Sinclair told us
so good
what was happening in her head. I love her so much. And yeah, she's stumping for a rematch, and this is when I thought this was kind of a fun transition to having this back by the shipping door, and I was like, why is this by the shipping door? And then of course something ran into the shipping door, and we went and we saw the guys outside fighting. And the one other thing I have written down is Julia is cool, which, yeah. Julia wa totemo kakoi. So, yeah, that first time I accidentally said Julia is totally a cookie. When I was trying to say Julia is very cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say anything more.
That's great.
Yeah, she's something else.
I want that on a t-shirt.
So they I think it was wise not to have her out there this week. Lots to do this week, and give her moment next week if you don't have enough time for something this week. And they didn't, because they didn't have enough time for Bayley. So you know that they didn't have time for their own NXT people. I guess anything on anything else other than that, I think we done covered the show, because
I think we did.
They kept it with long segments and some long matches. Anything more?
You told me before we went on the air you wanted to make it a short one, and we did it.
Yep, I've got to get packed, and it is not very late, so that does make me happy, folks. I will be at the Dallas Card Show at the largest table there, just as always, slinging cards to you and your friends if you show up. Sports cards, wrestling cards, Pokemon cards, because it is stupid how hot they are right now. So anyway, I'm Kelly Wells. You can find me on Blue Sky at other Kelly Wells, because this is the one time I'll say this. If you go on IMDb, I am Kelly Wells 2, because Kelly Wells 1 is a female porn star. Nate, who are you?
I still love that fact. It's one of my favorites. Not even just wrestling related or PWTorch related facts, just in general. Anyway, Nate Lindberg, you can find me on NateLindberg.com, things I do, and you can find me here in Blue Sky at Nate Lindberg. I think I have like 2 followers, and I've followed 4. So there we go.
Making great use of today's social media options. All right, folks. We are going to see you in 7. Cheers.
Peace.